What's going on, everybody? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and you're probably used to me shitting on the Nintendo Switch because many people think I'm a Nintendo Switch hater for some reason. I'm not. I'm really not. But that's beside the point. So, in the interest of keeping it fair, I actually have a topic I want to talk about that would be beneficial to Nintendo Switch owners and Nintendo Switch users and potential Nintendo Switch buyers later down the line. And that is late ports of games, their price, and their performance. Now, we all know the Nintendo Switch is inferior to the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, and of course the PC. We're not here to debate that right now, and I'm not using that to shit on the Nintendo Switch. It's simply fact, and it's something you have to take into account when you listen to what I'm about to say. So a lot of the games on the Nintendo Switch at the moment are either multiplats or they're ports of existing games. They're maybe remasters or current ports that exist already on the other platforms that are being ported over, which is fine, no problem with that. But where I start to get an issue and where I start to take exception is where these games, ported over maybe 1 or 2 or sometimes even 5 years later, not only will have inferior visuals to other platforms, will have inferior performance to other platforms, but will also cost significantly more expensive prices than other platforms at the time. Now, the big one I want to use as an example here is the one I want to go into big detail about. But first, before I do, there is multiple cases of this. Let's look at, say, stuff like Rime, which costs more expensive on Nintendo Switch and is an inferior port of the game because it runs poorly than other platforms, which cost less. LA Noire, same deal. The game is more expensive on Nintendo Switch and is the worst version of the game. And of course, let's not forget Doom. Doom being probably the biggest offender because it's the most high-priced version of all the different ports and remasters, especially when you take into consideration the huge performance hit and huge graphic fidelity drop just to get it onto the Switch, and yet the price they're charging versus what it can be had for on other platforms at the same time. We'll probably see this again with Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, next year on Nintendo Switch. But the big one I want to talk about now is something that was brought up originally. It was given a kind of tentative release date, and now it actually has a release date. That game is Payday 2, which will launch in February of 2018 on Nintendo Switch. Now, that's good in and of itself. The fact that the game is coming to Nintendo Switch, it's getting more support, etc., etc. That's all well and good. But here is where I start to have a problem. When you look around online at the moment, Payday 2 on Nintendo Switch is going to cost £40, which is €50 and $50. So whatever region you look in, you will see those rough estimate prices for Payday 2 on Nintendo Switch. Now, having said all that, okay, with that price in mind, because that is important, by the time this game comes out, you will be paying what is essentially full price or almost full price for a 5-year-old game. Think about that, okay? A 5-year-old game which will look and run inferior to the other comparable remastered version, which launched in 2015 for the PS4 and Xbox One. Obviously, the PC version originally is superior anyway, which when it first released back in 2013, but that's out of the equation. We're looking at consoles. So in 2018, you'll be able to buy Payday 2, which will look worse than a PS4 or Xbox One version, which will run worse than a PS4 or Xbox One version, and will cost twice as much. Currently, right now, the PS4 and Xbox One versions of the game are €25 and €23 respectively. And yes, those are all complete editions. And don't even get me started on the PC version because that's free to play and will look better and outperform all of the versions. But again, that's not the point. The point that I do want to make is these overpriced and overcharged late remasters, ports, whatever, need to stop. It's going to be beneficial for Nintendo Switch, and the users and potential users if the price on these simply drops. Doom is generally considered a failure when you look at its sales numbers, or at least the very few reported sales numbers that Doom actually has on Nintendo Switch. Doom sold just over 3,000 physical copies in its first week on Nintendo Switch in the UK. A full-priced game when you could get a PS4 or Xbox One version for €15, which will blast it out of the water in both performance and visual side, And then you can get the PC version at the time I looked at it when those numbers actually came out. You could get it for between €6 and €9. And that version will completely destroy even the console versions, the other console versions. So Nintendo Switch owners are basically being taken advantage of for these ports. And people are buying them even less, which gives a negative look overall. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some games out there which are from third parties which have sold pretty well on Nintendo Switch. But what you will find is that for the most part, a lot of these big games that do that aren't available on other platforms or are just small indie niche titles. For example, look at Ultra Street Fighter 2 on Nintendo Switch. Sold over 500,000 copies. I have one myself. Kind of slightly burned about that, given that the 30th anniversary collection is going to have all the better games for the same price. kind of burns the old bollocks. But anyway, that's the point, because this is going to continue happening. More companies are going to want to port games over, and they will charge full price for them. The games won't sell well, or they won't sell as well as expected, and then maybe other companies, or the same company who puts out other games too, might get a bit disheartened by it and maybe get turned off a little bit by it. Because let's face it, if Payday 2 launched at €30 on Nintendo Switch, it would probably be an easier sell. It's €5 more expensive than the other versions of the game. Even if it will look and run inferior, it's still a relatively same price cost. And any single one of you out there that comes at me with the, "But Q, it's portable, I can play it on the toilet, I can play it while taking a shit, I can play it on the train, I can do this, that, and the other." No, it's time to stop. There's not a valid reason for basically twice the price of a game. There are people out there who believe Nintendo Switch games should be more expensive because you're getting what they call two versions of the game, a home version and a portable version. No. So where do you stand on the whole Nintendo Switch ports costing more? I know usually it's generally considered down to the Switch tax because of the game cards, but let's look at it down the line. Let's look at stuff like Doom, like Payday 2. Games that are launching over a year or sometimes even 5 years after their initial launch, which look and run far inferior to their original counterparts and cost twice the price. Where do you stand on this? What do you think would benefit Nintendo, would not benefit Nintendo, would benefit the consumer overall? And where do you think it should go and what should happen? Let me know all of that good stuff in the comments section below. Feel free to call me a Switch hater as well, because most people do, even though I'm really not. But anyway, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the rest of the videos in my channel.